Right now, somewhere on Earth, a football fan is saying the same thing people say every World Cup. Of course they're winning. They're the host. And every tournament, it happens again. A team that normally struggles suddenly looks different. The players run harder. The crowd gets louder. The team somehow starts doing things nobody expected. Mexico suddenly looks unstoppable. Right now, as one of the hosts of the 2026 World Cup, they've already won all 4 of their matches and haven't conceded a single goal. Back in 2018, Russia entered the tournament with almost nobody expecting much. Then suddenly they reached the quarterfinals and knocked out Spain. And go back to 2002 when South Korea suddenly reached the semifinals. Every tournament it feels like certain host nations become completely different teams. And the weird part is, it keeps happening. And it raises a question. Why? Why does hosting a World Cup seem to give teams superpowers? Because if football is just 11 players against 11 players, playing at home shouldn't matter that much, right? Well, it turns out host nations have been doing this for almost an entire century. And the reason starts long before kickoff. Part 1. The pattern. Let's start with something weird. The very first World Cup happened in 1930, and guess who won it? The hosts, Uruguay. Then 4 years later, Italy hosted. Italy won too. Then England hosted in 1966. England won 3 host nations. 3 trophies. Coincidence? Maybe. But then more strange things started happening. Teams that weren't expected to go far suddenly started overperforming. In 2002, South Korea entered the tournament ranked behind many football giants. Then, suddenly, they reached the semifinals. They eliminated Italy, then Spain. The entire football world was asking, what is happening? Because on paper, some of these teams shouldn't have still been there. But they were. Part 2. The crowd effect. Now you might think, okay, fans cheer louder at home. That's true, but researchers found something more interesting. Crowds don't just affect players, they affect referees too. Imagine 80,000 people screaming every time a player falls. Every tackle, every decision, every possible foul. Your brain starts feeling pressure whether you realize it or not. Studies analyzing thousands of matches found that referees sometimes give slightly more favorable decisions to home teams. Not huge ones, tiny ones, maybe a little extra stoppage time, maybe a borderline foul, maybe a yellow card, small things. But football games are often decided by very small moments, and tiny advantages repeated over and over can become something much bigger. Part 3. The thing nobody talks about. But here's the part people almost never mention. Travel. Today players fly on private jets and stay in luxury hotels. But your body doesn't care. Travel still matters. Jet lag matters. Sleep matters. Routine matters. Imagine flying thousands of miles, changing time zones, eating different food, sleeping in a different bed, then trying to play the biggest game of your life. Host nations don't deal with that. They're sleeping in familiar places, training in familiar weather, playing in stadiums they've already seen. Meanwhile, everyone else is adapting. And at the highest level, tiny differences become huge. Part 4. The secret weapon. But none of those things are actually the biggest reason. The biggest reason is pressure. Because host nations don't just play for themselves. They're carrying an entire country. Millions of people watching, flags everywhere, crowds singing your name. For some players, that pressure destroys them. But for others, it turns into fuel. Psychologists call it social facilitation. People often perform better when others are watching them, especially at things they already know how to do. Suddenly, your legs feel lighter, your energy feels higher, your adrenaline goes crazy. You run one extra time. Then another, then another. And football games are often won by that one extra run. So here's the full picture. Host nations get familiar stadiums, less travel. Home crowds, small referee advantages, massive emotional energy, and all of it stacks together. One tiny advantage isn't enough. But 5 tiny advantages? That's different, because football has always been a game of small margins. One pass, one goal, one mistake, one moment. And when an entire nation is standing behind you, those small margins suddenly start feeling a lot bigger. Maybe host nations don't get superpowers after all. Maybe they just get every little advantage possible at exactly the right time.